Hey everyone, we have a bunch of news to bring you today coming from the world of Nintendo. Some really interesting stuff, some good news, some, I don't know, great news, I suppose, if you want to, depends on how you want to look at things. Also, hey, some brand new rumors and all of that. We haven't actually had any rumors on the channel for a little while now, so it's kind of cool to get some new ones coming in, especially as we get to the holiday season and closer to 2026. So we got to go over all of that. And yeah, folks, we just ended a giveaway. Our Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 giveaway just came to an end. I'm going to be emailing the winners behind the scenes and getting all that stuff confirmed and getting an official announcement over on our community section. But we do still have a giveaway going on right now for 5, let me repeat that, 5 copies of Kirby Air Riders. That's right. But you know what? I realize that there's a game I'm actually more hyped for. And look, Pokemon Legends EA might be an obvious choice for a new giveaway, but I'm going to be honest here. I don't want to give away Pokemon Legends EA. You know what I want to give away? Age of Imprisonment, everyone. That's right. We're going to give away, let's say 3 copies of Age of Imprisonment. That's right, folks. I'm excited about it. So if you're as excited for Age of Imprisonment as I am, it's my most anticipated game. Why don't you go ahead and enter that new giveaway down in the description. That's right. Our next 2 giveaways are for the month of November, the big holiday season, and they're Switch 2 exclusives. So look forward to that. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into this first one. And this first story is an interesting one because the headlines around it are absolutely crazy, but they also are correct. It's weird. Normally when we see crazy headlines, it's like an exaggeration, but no, Nintendo has updated and provided a policy about modern day slavery and what they are doing to make sure that it does not exist in their pipeline. Now, to understand why they would even have such policies in place in the first place, for starters, having policies against modern day slavery just makes sense if you have a risk of it happening. And the risk for Nintendo of that happening isn't so much like internally, at their dev studios and Nintendo of America and Europe and all that. No, it's more so with their manufacturing partners. You see, there have been many reports over the years of partners they've worked with, like Foxconn, doing things such as employing or forcing children or like camps and prisoners to do. It's hasn't been good. Look, the reports are out there. I don't know if any of it's true. A lot of political stuff that we don't talk about, but obviously Nintendo felt like in the midst of those reports and it pertaining to some of their partners that maybe they need to be looking at this stuff a lot closer. And now they have a public policy to let you know. We're not going to go through this whole document here. This is on Nintendo Japan's website. But there's a couple things I just want to make sure we go over. First off, the policy itself. Nintendo supports and adheres to international human rights principles and standards, such as the International Bill of Human Rights and guiding principles on business and human rights, both from the United Nations and the Declaration of Fundamental Principles and Rights at Work from the International Labor Organization. Based on these principles and standards, Nintendo has established the Nintendo Human Rights Policy. The policy was adopted by a board of director decisions after receiving advice from external experts. The policy applies to everyone employed by Nintendo, and it articulates Nintendo's commitment to human rights in accordance with our corporate vision and codes of conduct. The policy also extends to the Nintendo supply chain. That's the big part here, where we continuously engage with our business partners to help ensure they are conducting socially responsible operations. In addition to ensure fulfillment of the policy, Nintendo has established and implemented region-specific internal codes of conduct to prevent modern slavery within our business operations. At Nintendo Company Ltd. Japan, we provide each employee with the Nintendo Standards of Behavior, which constitute the policy for all actions at Nintendo. These guidelines include both the Nintendo DNA and the Nintendo Code of Conduct, basic rules our employees should uphold. Our subsidiaries outside Japan have also implemented their own codes of conduct for employees. Now, what's really important here is obviously what they're going to do. So some of their due diligence here is that we enter into written employment contracts with all employees. They use reputable employment agencies to hire temporary workers. We require each employment agency we use to provide the terms on which workers will be engaged by them, including minimum wages to be paid before accepting employees from these agencies. So Nintendo requires all this information before they even work with these agencies. We periodically review our terms with employment agencies and require all agencies to confirm their compliance status with all related laws and regulations. We have a procedure where employees can use to report any legal violations or suspected issues, including violation of Nintendo Standards of Behavior or Codes of Conduct. They also have some training that's involved with all of this as well. Then the Nintendo supply chain, again, this is the one I really focus on because this is probably why all these policies had to come into existence at Nintendo. Nintendo's commitment to legal compliance and responsible manufacturing applies throughout our supply chain. Nintendo requires our production partners to adhere to our policies and guidelines prohibiting slave labor, forced labor, child labor, prison labor, and human trafficking in sourcing, manufacturing, and labor practices. So, I mean, they're talking about even things such as like where the metals for their stuff comes from. Like they're going all the way up and down the supply chain to try to ensure that there is nothing bad going on and that all of it is happening within, reason, with reasonable rates by adults, no slave, no forced labor, no children, all that stuff. Obviously, they go into more of this. They carry out supply chain due diligence in order to assess environmental and human rights risks, and they work to reduce them. As part of these efforts to understand how CSR is being promoted by our production partners, we ensure their awareness of our procurement guidelines, confirm the state of CSR through written surveys. And this is the big one because like surveys or whatever, they conduct interviews and they do on-site visits. So Nintendo is regularly checking in on the whole supply chain to understand what the current status is and to follow up and make any improvements they deem necessary. In addition, since July of 2024, so last summer, Nintendo has been a member of RBA, an industry alliance dedicated to advancing social responsibility in global supply chains. So we're just going to kind of leave it at that. There's a lot more that we could go into here, but the point is Nintendo, they probably had some of these policies in there for a while, but there's a lot of mentions all throughout this about supply chains. It's very, very obvious that they are really, really trying to hit on the supply chains, really make sure slave labor is not being used, child labor, internment camps, labor, forced labor. They're really, fair rates as well, fair pay. They're trying really, really hard to ensure none of this stuff is happening in their supply chain. Nintendo, again, as I said, kind of got wrapped up in some old reports about Foxconn and some of the stuff that might have been happening in China, and who knows about where the precious metals and other things that go to make their boards and their chips. So yeah, I'm glad that Nintendo has these policies in place. I would assume most major corporations do, and if they don't, maybe you got to start to question if they're okay with things like we've all seen documentaries and heard stories about blood diamonds. You got to start wondering if some of these corporations just don't care. So I'm glad to see that Nintendo does, or at least has policies in place. Obviously, these are just words on a piece of paper, or on this case, a screen. Obviously, actions are what matter, and we'll probably never know the actions. We just hope that no bad stories end up ever coming up about, that kind of labor being used in Nintendo supply chain. And I'm going to be honest, I don't want stories about this sort of labor happening in any industry. It's unfortunately rampant, especially in specific countries. And I'm really, really hoping someday we can get all of this kind of eliminated. Slave labor is not okay under any context. I just want to be very clear about that. All right, moving on. We have some new rumors. And the rumors are pretty exciting, especially if you enjoy third-party games on Switch 2. Now, obviously, we have a lot of reasons to be excited about the prospect of third-party games. We've recently had a couple of games like Final Fantasy VII Remake really look impressive on Switch 2 with demos. We've had Resident Evil 9, honestly, looking really, really impressive on Switch 2, and obviously getting confirmation that not just getting Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but also the third game that hasn't even been announced yet. So there's lots of reasons to be excited about the prospect of third-party games heading into next year, and it looks like we might have some more reasons. Now, these rumors come from Nash Weedle, and as always, I need to note, Nash Weedle is just a person who's been right pretty often this year, but they haven't been right about everything, and occasionally they do seem to pass off some information as a leak that comes from things like patents. Now, none of this stuff comes from patents. I double checked, but that being said, it's just important to note that, hey, take this stuff with a grain of salt, but it seems pretty likely. So Leak Express, Remedy Entertainment, obviously with Max Payne and Alan Wake here. Now the Max Payne 1 and 2 remake, obviously they're saying these are coming to Switch 2. These have been announced, but we haven't seen anything of it, so I have nothing to really show for it. And then obviously Alan Wake 2. Now that's a big one, Game of the Year contender, all that stuff. Obviously, again, we're talking about, again, more old games. In this case, Alan Wake 2 is not that old. Max Payne 1 and 2 are remakes, so I guess those haven't come out yet or even been shown. But the point is, Alan Wake 2 obviously would be a pretty big get. It has issues running on PlayStation and Xbox in particular. PlayStation really is what the main focus, I suppose. I shouldn't have even mentioned Xbox there. The point is that it uses FSR, but it doesn't seem to use it very well. So the question obviously is DLSS the real answer for this game on Switch 2? And it actually ends up running a little bit better. We don't really know, of course. It's not announced for Switch 2 yet. We haven't seen any gameplay on Switch 2, but saying it's happening. And the big thing, obviously, and I didn't note this because he's quoting himself from yesterday, coming soon to Switch 2. I don't know what soon means. I don't know if soon means it's going to be a surprise drop this holiday. I don't know if it just means early 2026, but either way, that is cool. I actually think that there's a realistic chance that these rumors could be correct. Again, Nash Guidle has been right on a number of stuff this year, but we have to take everything he says with a grain of salt. Now, one thing that I actually wanted to talk about is Switch 2 accessories. We haven't had a lot of them. In fact, hold on a second. I want to grab one particular third-party accessory I just recently bought. Okay, so one of the issues I have in my house is we only have one Nintendo Switch 2. Mine, and I want to move it between like my office where I'm like recording footage and all of that, and also between my bedroom. And sometimes I want to play it on the projector. And look, for that you need other docks. Now, I have other docks, right? I have multiple third-party docks that, well, they work. they work, but I really have a hard time getting any of the docks to work without using Nintendo's official power supply. So if I have to drag the power supply, uncable manage it from my office, cable manage it back up in my room, I basically get to uncable manage it anytime I want to like move this thing around, the Switch 2 dock. Like, I'd like to put this up in my room and just be kind of done with it. So I was looking for charging cables. And of course, Nintendo sells a $35 charging cable. And I was going to pull the trigger on that until I saw something interesting on Amazon. And that is another third-party dock. And it's this one right here. It's like a $40 dock. And it comes not only with the supposed correct HDMI cable, it also comes with the brick and charger. Now, I haven't tested this yet. And again, I have third-party docks at work, but the big thing is if I was going to spend $35 for a charger so I can put a dock in a different room, why not get a new third-party dock and just do an all-in-one kit with the HDMI cable and everything, and I can actually use this down in my studio. We'll find out. Obviously, I'll let you know in a live stream or something if this actually works out. I can even maybe show it on screen, make sure that it actually is more than 1080p, does the full 4K, the 1440, 120. We'll have to test all that, but the point is that third-party accessories have actually been kind of few and far between outside of like grips and cases, right? That's probably going to be changing over the next year. But also what's been mysteriously absent is a wide breadth of official license accessories. And that is what today's story is about because, look, things are expensive. To get a brand new dock's $125. $125 US. Yeah, this was 40. So I really hope that this does the job here. But then there's like even the controllers, the Pro controllers. Look, let's just say with taxes, it's basically $100. It's a lot of money. And as much as I love the Switch 2 Pro controller, sometimes when you want to buy extra controllers, you just don't want to buy $100 a pop. Well, that's where PowerA comes in, Nintendo's official partner. So they are expanding the Switch 2 lineup with officially licensed wireless controllers. That's the big thing, is getting the wireless controllers on hand. You can see some of the designs here with Pokemon, Mario, and just a basic Switch 2. PowerA, a global leader in gaming accessories and a long-standing partner of Nintendo today, announced the Advantage wireless controller for Switch 2, the officially licensed wireless controller available for the next generation console. This milestone expands PowerA's portfolio of products designed for Switch 2, delivering high-performance, rigorously tested, and officially licensed accessories. The PowerA is proud to offer Switch 2 gamers one of the first collections of licensed wireless controllers available for Switch 2, a testament to both our innovation and our trusted partnership with Nintendo, said Brian Anderson, Vice President of Product Development and Marketing at PowerA. We always believe that gamers deserve accessories that combine official certification, quality, and creativity, and the Advantage wireless controller delivers on all fronts. We're also excited to work with our partners at Nintendo and the Pokemon Company International to release unique designs featuring Mario as well as fan favorite Pikachu alongside Mega Evolved Pokemon. So the new features here, the Advantage wireless controller is entered with Hall effect sensors in the thumbsticks. So they are going with Hall sensors, something Nintendo didn't do, for long-lasting precision and reduced stick drift, paired with embedded anti-friction rings for smooth, accurate control. It also features a dedicated chat button. Again, they can do that because they are officially licensed. That enables quick access to game chat features. Players can further customize their experience with motion controls, mappable advanced gaming buttons, and a status LED indicator for real-time connectivity updates. Gaming fans appreciate the conveniently relocated buttons, allowing for uninterrupted, bold designs, showcasing the game's most beloved characters. So yeah, they talk about some of the designs here. Talk about the comfort. It's extended to have up to 30 hours of battery life. That is less than the Switch 2 Pro controller, but these are usually cheaper than that. And this is where we get to the pricing, because these aren't the cheapest things out there, but they do feel like a relatively good deal, especially with Hall Effect sticks compared to Nintendo's own offerings. So PowerA Switch 2 Advantage Wireless Controller Black, the Advantage Wireless Controller for Switch 2, Mario and Friends, and obviously the Mega Evolutions Pikachu one is going to be available at Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, and GameStop, and other retailers for $69.99 with an expected availability in time for the holidays. There's a warranty for this as well, a 2-year limited warranty. So again, just pointing out that, like, obviously, you know, these are still expensive, but you do get the Hall Effect sticks, which should be an upgrade over Nintendo's. And honestly, look, PowerA, they've all kind of been hit or miss. Sometimes their accessories are actually pretty good. Sometimes they're not. These seem on the surface to be pretty good, but I haven't tested one. We'll probably have to get one on hand to give it a test this holiday. But yeah, I'm just happy to see more options on the market that are not Nintendo's and also support all of the Nintendo features. So being able to wake up your system with the home button, obviously game chat. There's probably some sort of basic Rumble in there. They didn't mention it, so I don't want to guarantee there's Rumble. I didn't see that mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sort of basic Rumble included. But either way, Rumble isn't always the biggest feature for everyone. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. I think it's always good to have more products out there, more options for consumers. Options are always amazing and best. It's better than just, you know, having to suck up the expensive price of the Switch 2 Pro controllers. All right, speaking of pricing, we have this interesting story. So there's a lot of ways retailers approach things. And one method, in Walmart is actually very famous for this method, is loss leading. Now, what is loss leading? Well, I'm not going to go into the detailed description and definition of it. You can look it up if you care to, but all you really need to know about being a loss leader is there are certain devices, certain products that a company will essentially take a loss on or significantly cut their margins on it, maybe not a full loss, but getting rid of a majority of the profits, to come in with a product that's cheaper than at any other store carrying that product. And the idea is to get you to come into or physically, into the physical store or to shop there online, hoping that because you're getting this product you really want for a cheaper price, you will maybe buy other products that have much better margins. That's what a loss leader is. And it's happening with Switch 2. That is the fascinating part, is that it appears a retailer, and again, this is a rumor, although it comes from a very reliable place, is going to be using Switch 2 as a loss leader to get people into their store to buy other things. I think that's fascinating, and obviously is good news for people looking for Switch 2 a little bit cheaper. What are we talking about? Well, Nintendo Roast has a story over there, although I believe it comes from Bill Kun, and it says Switch 2 will be priced lower starting October 14th. Looks like we have an interesting rumor coming out of France. Nintendo has accustomed us to the best Nintendo Switch games, and now also the Nintendo Switch 2. But now we have different news. It seems the successor console could be getting a price cut. This information is derived from this listing on Eleclerc in France, Nintendo Switch 2, and the Pokemon Legends ZA packs. This is specifically the ZA pack, not the entire lineup of Switch 2. The price previously was 499 euros. It is being priced at 469 euros. They're calling this a 6% discount. It's going to be available on October 14th. And it's going to be available on their physical and online stores. It's an offer revealed by Bill Kun on Deal Labs. The most interesting thing is that this insider claims it's a permanent price drop. Now, again, this only applies right now to the Legends ZA bundle. We don't know how long the ZA bundle is going to be around for, but he's saying this is not a temporary thing. Like, this isn't just for the holidays. So they probably plan for the ZA bundle to last past the holidays, and this particular discount, this is just what that pack's going to always cost. He assures there will also be other bundles at the same price, and this is where it gets interesting because he's claiming the Mario Kart World bundle is also going to get this discount. I find that really interesting. We haven't seen the listing of that yet to prove it, but I will note that Mario Kart World bundle technically is being discontinued by 2026. So this is not going to run past holiday, at least right now. It'll probably come back next holiday. But the point is, it looks like this particular retailer, and again, it's just in France, is using Switch 2 bundles as loss leaders in order for them to potentially drive more customers. So I do think that that's an interesting stance. Obviously, we don't see consumer electronics used in this way very often. Outside of Walmart, where we see them give like $10 discounts on games and basically cut their profit margins out and maybe even lose a buck or two because, hey, they're trying to get you to come into the store, hoping that you buy other stuff. Speaking of buying other stuff, look, we obviously know Mario Galaxy 1+2 drops tomorrow. Obviously, some people are playing it right now, different time zones, all this stuff. Well, here's the thing. We just have a couple things we got to go over with it to end the video. First off, I just wanted to show you guys the Metacritic. It's sitting currently at an 88. That is 1 point ahead of Ghost of Yotei, or however you pronounce that. That's the big Sony release this week. So I guess you could chalk that up as a win for Nintendo. I don't know. These games are amazing and some of the best 3D platformers ever, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, look, there's still the criticisms on the price and everything out there. Not telling you to buy it, but I wanted to let you know that even today in 2025, they are still highly, highly reviewed games. But beyond all of that, we have this other story about them. And this has to do just with a little bit of behind the scenes. Like, how did Nintendo get these games running on Switch 2? Like, what methods did they use? And this comes from data mining. And we go over to Oatmeal Dome for this. So both games are emulation plus native port. Now, that's interesting. How does that happen? They're hybrids. Galaxy 1 was apparently this way in 3D All-Stars, but not just that. Pikmin 1 and 2 HD, as we're about to find out. So the game's code was actually rebuilt. So they like recompiled and rebuilt the code to run natively on Switch's CPU. But the graphics, audio, and etc. run under a Nintendo Wii emulator called Hagi. Now, what's important to note here is like, okay, technically, that doesn't make any sense and isn't possible to just run graphics through an emulator, but run the code locally. However, what he's probably meaning here is that Hagi Wii emulator, they're running the visuals and audio like through it and then using a translation layer before it hits the code on running natively on the CPU. So there's probably just a translation layer which is missing in here, which can sometimes be hard to figure out in a data mine. That being said, it goes on to say the overall project code name is Comet. Galaxy 1's code name is Cosmo, and Galaxy 2's is Cosmo 2. So the overall project is Comet, but Cosmo, Cosmo 2, etc. Pikmin 1 and 2 on Switch also uses the hybrid emulation technique. So this is something Nintendo's done before. It also goes to show that, yeah, there was some work done on this to recompile and get the code running natively on the CPU. But these aren't like the most complicated ports in the world. They didn't, use probably, dozens and dozens of devs to try to like really beef up these games. They seem pretty much par for the course. Again, being likened to Pikmin 1+2 HD. I don't know if you can liken this to something like Donkey Kong Country Returns HD or anything like that. But the point is, it doesn't seem like these are some high effort things, but it's still really good to have them. Having the games is still better than not having them, regardless if you like the price point or not. And I'm sure 1 million or so, maybe more people, are going to be enjoying these games this holiday. There'll be some people playing them for the very first time, by the way, especially Galaxy 2. I can see people who play Galaxy 1 for the first time at 3D All-Stars being really excited for Galaxy 2. If only there was Galaxy 2 on its own physically, that would have been appreciated. Of course, then you could argue you want Galaxy on its own physically as well. You can buy them individually digitally. So Nintendo does weird things in how they package their games, but yeah, there you go. That's the stories for today. So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a great video. I got to go. I got to edit this video. I got to have a doctor's appointment today as well, and I also have to test out this today because I haven't been using my own Switch 2 footage in a bit, and I think it's time that I start to do that again. And to do that, I got to get everything up and running again to actually get proper game recordings done. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'll catch you in the next video, or if not then, tonight on the Nintendo by Podcast. Dude, we got some returning guests that I think you guys are going to be excited about, and some really great topics, including some rumors and speculation for the 40th anniversary of Zelda. Oh, man. Can you believe that's not too far away. It's in February. We only have 3 months left in 2025. Can you believe what? Dude, I don't know if it's just you guys. 2025 is going fast, man. I don't know. It's October 1st. Spooky season. Catch you in the next one.